Southeast Asia is predominantly agricultural, but increased production of horticulture crops has not been adequate to meet demand. The main cause is high post-harvest loss. A Philippine survey on selected fruits and vegetables showed that post-harvest losses ranged from 32 to 78% or even higher under unfavorable circumstances such as typhoons and delayed shipment. Post-harvest handling system is the weakest in the production marketing chain for fresh produce. High post-harvest losses mean less available food and reduced income for farmers and traders. The time, resources, and labor used for production are also wasted. If losses are reduced by 10%, the country could save millions of pesos per year. The present PHTRC without the ASEAN is known simply as PHTRC. Its vision is to be the center of academic and technological excellence on post-harvest science of tropical horticultural crops in the ASEAN region that is internationally connected and industry-oriented. Its mission is to modernize and enhance the global competitiveness of the Philippine horticulture industry through post-harvest systems development and improvement. The center is guided by its three major mandates. Most post-harvest basic researches in the country are done at PHTRC. It covers morphoanatomy, biochemistry, pathology and entomology, post-harvest physiology, biotechnology, engineering studies conducted in collaboration with the Agricultural and Bioprocessing Division of the Institute of Agricultural Engineering, UPLB, and socioeconomics. These basic researches have led to the development of technologies. The PHTRC Extension Program and activities include action research projects and technical assistance to industry. PHTRC also offers summer short courses and regular courses for different industry stakeholders, holds conferences and study tours, participates in various agri-exhibits nationwide. The PHTRC has produced educational materials on post-harvest handling. It also continues to provide assistance to the horticulture industry, academic institutions, and research agencies. Through the years, PHTRC has supported instruction. It handles 8 subjects, leading to post-harvest field of specialization that is being offered by the Institute of Crop Science. It also supports instructional activities by initiating courses, publishing teaching materials, and providing its facilities for the courses. Today, the PHTRC continues its research and extension programs towards reducing losses, maintaining quality, and ensuring safety of perishable crops. The PHTRC still faces the challenge of generating more basic information. It has to develop new and better post-harvest technologies and systems. It has to address training needs and strengthen the post-harvest extension delivery system. All these are being done towards a globally competitive horticulture industry.
Reducing food losses along the supply chain and cutting food waste by 50% at a retail and consumer level is critical to achieving a sustainable world. But how are we going to do this? Harvesting produce can be extremely challenging. Inadequate tools or poor harvest techniques make it economically difficult for farmers to market products which are left unharvested. Packaging and management along the supply chain can cause unnecessary waste. Adequate cold storage is crucial to prevent losses and preserve quality, Storage is a challenge for many people who do not have access to hermetic bags and refrigeration. The idea of perfect produce often causes food to be wasted in supermarkets. Providing variety and having shelves always stocked for customers is another challenge that retailers face. Consumers tend to underestimate the amount they waste. Creating awareness of how much food is really wasted is vital to making a difference. Reducing food loss and waste substantially at the global level will not be easy. When a little bit of food is lost and wasted at every stage, from farm to consumer, it all adds up. It will require better information, targeted investments, and a change in our behavior. Whether you are a farmer, work in logistics, a retailer, or a consumer, everyone has a role to play in rising to the challenge.
Southeast Asia is predominantly agricultural. But increased production of horticulture crops has not been adequate to meet demand. The main cause is high post-harvest loss. A Philippine survey on selected fruits and vegetables showed that post-harvest losses ranged from 32 to 78% or even higher under unfavorable circumstances such as typhoons and delayed shipment. Post-harvest handling system is the weakest link in the production marketing chain for fresh produce. High post-harvest losses mean less available food and reduced income for farmers and traders. The time, resources, and labor used for production are also wasted. If losses are reduced by 10%, the country could save millions of pesos per year. The present PHTRC without the ASEAN is known simply as PHTRC. Its vision is to be the center of academic and technological excellence on post-harvest science of tropical horticultural crops in the ASEAN region that is internationally connected and industry-oriented. Its mission is to modernize and enhance the global competitiveness of the Philippine horticulture industry through post-harvest systems development and improvement. The center is guided by its three major mandates. Most post-harvest basic researches in the country are done at PHTRC. It covers morphoanatomy, biochemistry, pathology and entomology, post-harvest physiology, biotechnology, engineering studies conducted in collaboration with the Agricultural and Bioprocessing Division of the Institute of Agricultural Engineering, UPLB, and socioeconomics. These basic researches have led to the development of technologies. The PHTRC Extension Program and activities include action research projects and technical assistance to industry. PHTRC also offers summer short courses and regular courses for different industry stakeholders, holds conferences and study tours, participates in various agri-exhibits nationwide. The PHTRC has produced educational materials on post-harvest handling. It also continues to provide assistance to the horticulture industry, academic institutions, and research agencies. Through the years, PHTRC has supported instruction. It handles 8 subjects, leading to post-harvest field of specialization that is being offered by the Institute of Crop Science. It also supports instructional activities by initiating courses, publishing teaching materials, and providing its facilities for the courses. Today, the PHTRC continues its research and extension programs towards reducing losses, maintaining quality, and ensuring safety of perishable crops. The PHTRC still faces the challenge of generating more basic information. It has to develop new and better post-harvest technologies and systems. It has to address training needs and strengthen the post-harvest extension delivery system. All these are being done towards a globally competitive horticulture industry.
Reducing food losses along the supply chain and cutting food waste by 50% at a retail and consumer level is critical to achieving a sustainable world. But how are we going to do this? Harvesting produce can be extremely challenging. Inadequate tools or poor harvest techniques make it economically difficult for farmers to market products which are left unharvested. Poor handling, packaging and management along the supply chain can cause unnecessary waste. Adequate cold storage is crucial to prevent losses and preserve quality. Storage is a challenge for many people who do not have access to hermetic bags and refrigeration. Imperfect produce often causes food to be wasted in supermarkets. Providing variety and having shelves always stocked for customers is another challenge that retailers face. Consumers tend to underestimate the amount they waste. Creating awareness of how much food is really wasted is vital to making a difference. Reducing food loss and waste substantially at the global level will not be easy. When a little bit of food is lost and wasted at every stage, from farm to consumer, it all adds up. It will require better information, targeted investments, and a change in our behavior. Whether you are a farmer, work in logistics, a retailer, or a consumer, everyone has a role to play in rising to the challenge.
Isang mapagpalang umaga po sa ating lahat. Kamusta po kayo? I hope you are all safe and healthy. Hi and hello po sa ating mga participants dito sa Zoom. Wow, marami na po tayong mga participants dito. Okay, meron po tayong mga taga-Cavsu, taga-Ilocos Norte, Sibisua Main Campus, PRMSU Zambales, CMU Bukidnon. Good morning po sa inyong lahat. Siyempre, naka-broadcast din po tayo sa ating Facebook page at YouTube channel ng Postharvest Horticulture Training and Research Center. Muli po, a pleasant morning everyone. I hope you are all safe and healthy. Ano nga po ba ang meron ngayon sa umagang ito? Today, we are actually celebrating the first ever, ito po ang kauna-unahang selebrasyon ng International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. This is an initiative of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in line with the Sustainable Development Goal number 12.3, which is to reduce food loss and waste. The main objective of this webinar is to create awareness about food loss and waste reduction among the stakeholders of the food industry, including the youth sector. At base po doon sa pre-registration na inyong fill out via Google Form, we have a diverse group of participants. Meron po tayong mga government employees, meron din po tayong mga faculty, even researchers, at yung mga students representing the youth sector, and even those working in private organizations. Let me introduce myself to everyone. Good morning, I am John Drell Zuniega, an assistant professor, and I will be your moderator this morning. Magkakasama-sama po tayo buong umaga. And para po sa ating mga participants, meron lamang po tayong mga house rules. Una, always observe proper virtual conferencing etiquette. At yung mga participants po natin dito sa Zoom, may we request na pakimute po muna ang inyong mga sarili, pati po ang inyong mga cameras. Pero mamaya i-on nyo yan dahil magkakaroon tayo ng photo op session bago po matapos ang webinar. Makikita po natin kung sino-sino itong mga nasa ating Zoom. And of course, magkakaroon din po tayo ng Q&A segment. And during the Q&A segment, type your questions in the Zoom chat box. And kung kayo po ay nanonood sa Facebook and YouTube pages, makikilagay po ng inyong mga comments sa comment sections. Mangyari lang din po na makilagay ng inyong mga pangalan at affiliation or organization when asking a question. And of course, since you are all attendees or participants ng ating webinar, makaka-receive po kayo ng e-certificate kung kayo ay makakapag-accomplish ng evaluation form. The link will be posted sa ating chat box and comment section, so don't forget to accomplish the eval form para po ay kayo ay magkaroon ng e-certificate. Okay. So this morning po, meron po tayong 4 na speakers. So kapitagang speakers natin ang naimbita sa webinar po na ito. And the presentation of each speaker will run for about 15 to 20 minutes. After each presentation, there will be a Q&A or open forum for 5 minutes. So ulitin ko po, no, after po ng bawat presentation ng ating resource speaker, magkakaroon po tayo ng Q&A. At yun po, makikitype ng inyong mga questions. So habang nakikinig po kayo sa ating mga speakers, kung meron na po kayong naisip na questions, you can type that already sa ating comment section or sa ating chat box. And after all the presentations ng ating resource speakers, we will entertain 2 to 3 more questions. So kung nabitin po kayo during the presentation of each speaker in the Q&A forum, i-entertain po natin yung mga questions ninyo pa. So encourage po namin kayo na mag-type kayo ng mga questions. Okay, bago po natin simulan ang ating programa, tingnan natin kung taga saan ba itong ating mga participants, no? Dahil diverse itong group natin. Nais natin malaman kung saan kayo nakatira, okay? Kung ano yung mga probinsya, kung saan probinsya kayo ngayon. So ilabas po ang inyong mga cellphone or kung kayo ay nasa harap ng inyong mga computers, i-type ang link at code na nakikita ninyo sa inyong mga screen. Type the link www.menti.com and enter the code 6201396. Ulitin ko po, visit www.menti.com and enter the code 6201396. Alright, ang ating pong mahiwagang tanong ay, taga saan ka? Okay? Gusto man po namin makitang sumayaw kayo pag narinig niyo tong question na to, no? Pero makikitype na lang po sa Menti kung ano ang inyong mga sagot. Ayan, unti-unti na po nating nakikita ang mga sagot ng ating participants. Meron pong taga Ilocos Norte, Santa Rosa City, Laguna, Negros Oriental, Philippines. Buong bansa na nire-represent niya. Of course, Los Baños, Quezon City, saan pa? Bataan, Cavite, Naga City, Dumaguete, Calamba City, Laguna, lapit lang po ng Calamba, Batac City, Ilocos Norte. Ayan, marami pong mga taga Los Baños. Sige, type nyo lang po yan. Shout out po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat sa pag-attend po sa ating webinar. Okay? Nakakatuwa na mula sa iba't ibang parte ng Pilipinas ang ating mga participants. Hello po sa inyong lahat. Alright, hindi na po ako magpapatumpik-tumpik pa. Upang formal na simulan na ang ating webinar, pakinggan po natin ang current director ng Postharvest Horticulture Training and Research Center o PHTRC upang magbigay ng overview ng webinar. Walang iba kundi si Dr. Dormita R. Del Carmen.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Welcome sa ating webinar on food loss and waste reduction amidst COVID-19 pandemic. Ang webinar na ito ay isinasagawa kasabay ang pagdiriwang ng kauna-unahang International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste ngayong taon. Alam niyo ba na ayon sa datos ng United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, halos 33% ng kabuuang agricultural production sa buong mundo ay natatapon or nasasayang lamang at hindi nakakarating sa ating hapagkainan. Ito ay isang malaking hamon sa seguridad ng pagkain at nutrisyon ng ating lumalaking populasyon. Malaki din ang impact nito sa ating ekonomiya at kapaligiran o environment. Kaya nga, sa mga nagdaang taon, isa sa mga focus o highlight ng Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs sa dami ng naaaksaya nating pagkain. Particular ang SDG Target 12.3 ay naglalayon na by 2030 ay mapababa hanggang 50% o kalahati ang kabuuang dami ng nasasayang na pagkain sa buong mundo. Kaakibat ng programang ito, itinalaga ng United Nations General Assembly noong December 19, 2019, ang September 29 bilang International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. Ito ay isang napakahalagang activity, lalo na sa ngayong problema dala ng pandemyang COVID-19, kung saan pinaka-apektado ang nakararami sa ating tinatawag na vulnerable sectors. Bilang tugon, ang Department of Agriculture ay nagkaroon ng malawakang programa na tinatawag na Plant upang mapunan ang kakulangan sa pagkain. May mga private sectors at non-government organizations din na nakisama sa advokasya at initiatives para matugunan ang ating pangangailangan sa pagkain. Ang ating sariling kolehiyo ng agrikultura at agham pampagkain ay patuloy din sa pagpapatupad ng mga programa ukol sa food security and food loss reduction. Isa sa epekto ng pandemya ay ang pagkadiskaril sa tinatawag na supply chain, kung saan nagkaroon ng problema sa distribution ng pagkain from the farm to the market. At ito ay nagresulta sa mas maraming produkto na naaaksaya dahil sa pagkasira o pagkabulok. Sa gitna ng krisis na dala ng pandemya, mas kinakailangan nating paigtingin hindi lamang ang produksyon, kundi pati na ang programa sa post-harvest at post-production aspects upang ma-minimize ang food loss and waste at upang mas matiyak natin ang sapat na supply ng pagkain para sa mamamayang Pilipino. Ang pagbaba ng food loss and waste ay malaking tulong din sa pagbabawas ng greenhouse gases emissions at pag-minimize ng pagkasira ng natural resource base. Kaya naman ang webinar na ito ay naglalayong magbigay ng kaalaman at maitaas ang kamalayan nating lahat, particular ang mga stakeholders sa industriya ng pagkain at agrikultura at maging sa sektor ng mga kabataan upang mabawasan ang dami ng nasasayang nating pagkain. Food loss and waste reduction requires attention and action of all, from the food producers to handlers and traders to food industries, retailers, and consumers. Kasama natin sa talakayang ito ang mga eksperto sa iba't ibang larangan ng post-harvest, food science, at post-production na magbabahagi ng mga programa, pamamaraan, at teknolohiya kung paano natin mamiminimize ang food loss and waste. At nais ko pong i-extend ang taus-pusong pasasalamat sa ating mga resource persons na tumugon sa ating paanyaya na makasama natin sa webinar na ito. Sasamantalahin ko na din po ang pagkakataong ito upang pasalamatan ang suporta ng ating kolehiyo sa pangunguna ni Dean Elpidio Agbisid Jr. At syempre po, higit sa lahat, sa Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations na nagbigay sa atin ng oportunidad na makabilang ang Pilipinas sa pagsasagawa ng launching ng International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. Sana po ang mapulot niyong kaalaman sa ating webinar ay inyong mai-apply at mai-share din sa ating mga kaibigan at ating kapwa Pilipino. Celebrating International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste is a call to action. Stop food loss and waste for the people, for the planet. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Maraming salamat po, Dr. Del Carmen, sa pagbibigay ng mga mahalagang impormasyon tungkol sa webinar na naglalayong maitaas ang kaalaman at kamalayan ng ating mga stakeholders ng food industry. Indeed, celebrating International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste is a call to action. Stop food loss and waste for the people and for the planet. Ngayon naman, isang mensahe po ang inihanda ng ating minamahal na dekano ng Kolehiyo ng Agrikultura at Agampang Pagkain, UP Los Baños. He is the 16th Dean of the College of Agriculture and Food Science, formerly College of Agriculture. He finished his BS Agriculture, major in Animal Science, MS and Doctor of Philosophy in Animal Science at UPLB. He is also currently an Associate Professor at the Institute of Animal Science with specialization in swine production. Ngayon, pakinggan po natin ang mensahe mula kay Dean Elpidio M. Agbisid Jr.
Del Carmen, Research Center Director, to the resource persons who gave their time today to share their expertise, to the FAO representatives who will echo their great program, to all participants, I hope you learn a lot today, to the men and women of PHTRC and the food loss and waste has always been a problem in the Philippines, even before COVID-19 pandemic. According to data, on the average, Filipino wastes 308,000 tons of rice every year, and the primary contributor is oversupply of food prepared by the restaurants. In the part of agriculture sector, food loss and waste production contribute to food insecurity. Aside from that, as mentioned by the Food Agriculture Organization Director Chu Dong-yu, food loss and wastage also contribute to climate change, as it generates 8% of the greenhouse gas emissions. Initially, we just think of food being wasted, but then underlying it, it contributes to a bigger problem. In the Philippines, as a way to reduce food loss and waste, there is a move in the Congress to pass a House Bill 3370, which aims to encourage public-private partnership to invest in the effective implementation of food waste management and reduction. Also included in the bill is a mandatory donation of edible food surplus for charitable purposes, and the creation of a food banks with strict quality control monitoring from the local government units, the National Nutrition Council, and the Food and Drug Administration. We applauded this move. This does not only lessen food wastage, but also will help Filipinos who do not have access to food. Today, as we celebrate the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, may we start forming a habit of planning our food to eat so that it won't. Let us bear in mind that with food planning, we will not only lessen food loss and waste, we also help in combating food insecurity and climate change. Let me share to you words of wisdom coming from my parents. They told us when we were young, in the vernacular, ang ilalagay mo lang pagkain sa plato mo ay yung kaya mong ubusin. We grew up practicing that and sometimes get joking reaction coming from other persons na parang hinimod ng pusa ang plato mo. Thinking back, this may be my parents' special way in minimizing food waste. So let us all maximize technology invented for better food preservation and maintenance, especially now that we are facing the COVID-19 pandemic, where access to food becomes more difficult. I hope today's webinar will give you an idea what you can do in your own little way. Again, a pleasant morning to everyone, and from the College of Agriculture and Food Science, may the knowledge you learned today be shared to other people. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. God bless us all.
Maraming salamat po, Dean Agbisit, sa pagbibigay ng isang makabuluhang mensahe, lalo na patungkol sa maaaring maging contribution ng bawat individual sa food loss and waste reduction. Ika nga ng mga magulang ni Dean, no? Ang ilalagay mo lang daw po sa plato mo ay yung kaya mo lang ubusin. Ginagawa niyo ba yon, mga participants? Well, personally, tinuro rin po yun sa akin ng mga magulang ko po. Now, we are actually fortunate to have a representative from the Food and Agriculture Organization to deliver a keynote address. He is no other than the Chief Economist of FAO, Dr. Maximo Torrero Collin. Dr. Collin holds a degree of Master's and PhD in Economics from the University of California, Los Angeles, and Bachelor's degree in Economics from the University of the Pacific, Lima, Peru. He is a professor on leave at the same university and a fellow at the University of Bonn, Germany. He has also published several journal articles and has received numerous awards. His research works focus on analyzing poverty, inequality, importance of geography and assets, and policies towards poverty alleviation. He has also worked in the International Food Policy Research Institute and World Bank before being a chief economist of FAO. Let's all welcome Dr. Maximo Torrero Collin.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to convey greetings from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, on the occasion of the inaugural observance of the International Day of Food Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. On 19th of December 2019, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the resolution proclaiming the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste to raise awareness of the importance of the problem and its possible solutions at all levels in a bid to promote global efforts and collective action towards meeting Target 12.3 of the Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 12.3 calls for halving per capita global food waste at retail and consumer levels and reducing food losses along production and supply chains, including post-harvest losses, by 2030. Observance of the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste on the 29th of September each year provides us an opportunity to reflect and to take stock of actions needed to stem the problem towards enhancing the sustainability and efficiency of our food systems and achieving SDG Target 12.3. Significant quantities of food produced today across the globe are lost and wasted along the supply chain and never make it to the mouth of consumers. Food loss and waste is also one of the most challenging contradictions of our time. An estimated 690 million people on our planet today are hungry and 3 billion people cannot afford a healthy diet. But at the same time, an estimating 14% of the food value at an estimated $400 billion is lost between harvest and distribution at the global level. What a contradiction. From a nutritional point of view, this loss is equivalent to an estimated 13% of calories produced globally that will never make it to the mouth of consumers, while many remain food insecure. In terms of greenhouse gas emissions, the food loss is associated with around 1.5 gigatons of CO2 equivalent. From a nutritional point of view, this is equivalent to more than 1,000 trillion milligrams of phosphorus and more than 350 trillion milligrams of magnesium. Food loss and waste represents a waste of significant and scarce resources used to produce food, including water, soil, energy, labor, and time. Clearly, a lot needs to be done to address the significant inequities and the high levels of food loss and waste that reduce the efficiency and the sustainability of our food systems. This is needed now, more than ever, as we continue to face the COVID-19 pandemic with increasing levels of food security in all regions of the globe. By preventing food loss and waste, we can save nutritious food for redistribution to those in need, avoid pressure on scarce natural resources, help mitigate climate change, and save money for farmers, companies, and households. So what actions will move us in the right direction to do so? Food loss and waste reduction must be a shared responsibility of all of us. We need to raise awareness of stakeholders and all levels of public sector, private sector, civil society, and consumers to help stem the problem. More and better statistical data covering where and how food losses and waste occur is required. Actions to address the specific sources of food loss and food waste must be scaled up, and collaboration must be promoted for greater coherence and effectiveness of action. Developments are required in the policy agenda, and incentives are required to promote investments in order to allow these changes to take place at an accelerated and expanded rate. Knowledge sharing through platforms such as the recently launched FAO Technical Platform on Food Loss and Waste Reduction will also contribute to the pace of the change. Reducing food loss and waste is a critical part of the transformation we need to improve the health of people and of the planet. This is why the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste is so important for FAO and for all of us. Let us use this opportunity to inform, educate, and engage consumers, youth, producers, parliamentarians with information about the importance of food loss and waste reduction. This needs to start at the family level, educating our children to respect and to appreciate food. By reducing food loss and waste, we can contribute to supporting food systems that protect the planet and efficiently deliver safe, nutritious, and diverse foods for all. Thank you.
Thank you for that inspiring keynote address, Dr. Cullen. Indeed, the celebration of the International Awareness of Food Loss and Waste will give us an opportunity and to take actions towards achieving SDG 12.3, not only for food security, but also including nutrition and the reduction of post-harvest losses, lalo na po sa panahon ngayon ng pandemic. To quote, "This is a shared responsibility among us since we are all involved in the food sector. So we should start at the family level." At kaya po meron po tayo ngayong webinar na to is for knowledge sharing to raise awareness. At this point of time, I know you're all excited to listen to the presentations of our resource speakers. Reminder lang po para sa ating mga participants, kung kayo po ay nasa Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube, I am encouraging everyone to type in your questions in the chat box and comment sections. Ngayon, unahin po natin ang dalawang speakers. Our first speaker is a professor at the Institute of Crop Science and an affiliate faculty researcher of PHTRC. She is also the former director of PHTRC. She is no other than Dr. Elda B. Isguera. Our second speaker is an adjunct professor of the Institute of Crop Science. She also served as the director of PHTRC. Let's all welcome Dr. Edrelina P. Serrano. Ang una po nating speaker, walang iba po kundi si Dr. Isguera. She will give us the overview and discuss the importance of food loss and waste reduction, especially during pandemic.
So, good morning. My presentation deals on the overview and importance of food loss and waste reduction, especially during the pandemic. So, I always show this slide to depict food loss and waste. Sabi namin, more were planted than harvested. So, to feed the ever-growing population, dahil masipag nga tayong mga Pinoy pagdating sa population growth, emphasis is placed on increasing productivity. Pero madami kang inani, o madami kang itinanim, pero hindi lahat ng inani mo ay pwedeng ibenta dahil may mga nare-reject pagkaani. Yung iba, pwede pang ibenta, pero sa mas mababang presyo. Yung na-harvest mo naman, pagdating sa market, mababawasan pa rin dahil may mare-reject pa din yung mga wholesalers, yung mga retailers, Kaya sinasabing, more were harvested than marketed. Lastly, nabili nga ang produkto, fruit, vegetable, pero hindi naman lahat nakain dahil sa tinatawag na food waste o kaya yung mga hindi na iluto. Kaya sinasabi, more were marketed than consumed. So, ano nga ba nangyayari sa mga produkto? Mula ito sa farm hanggang at mapapansin nyo, sa bawat operation dyan sa food pipeline na yan, parang may mga tumutulo, Hindi naman tubig yan, May mga butas. Ibig sabihin yan, yun yung mga losses that occur at each step in the chain, So, meron din dyang categorization or classification ng wastage, may tinatawag na food loss, at merong tinatawag na food waste, Yung food loss or yung post-harvest loss, these are the losses that occur after separation from the site of immediate growth or production until wholesale distribution or processing, kung papuntang processing plant, yung Ang food waste naman, ito yung mga losses that occur from the point of sale up to consumption, And according to FAO, globally, about 1/3 of the food produced are lost and wasted, So, i-define pa natin, ano nga ba yung food loss na yan, So, it is defined as any change in the availability, edibility, wholesomeness, or quality of the food that reduces the value to humans, In the Philippines, ang range ng losses, ito ay sa fruits and vegetables, it ranges from 15 to 30%, and these occur in several forms, Yan yung mga nabulok, napisa, nag-lose ng weight, ang tinatawag na quantitative loss. Ang food waste naman, ito yung napatapon dun sa retail, hindi nakain, itinira sa plato, napatapon sa basurahan. Kung mapansin nyo, ang baba ng food waste, ito ay base sa pag-aaral na ginawa ng Postharvest noong 2016. 3 to 4% lamang ang food waste, So, saan ba, tsaka mapansin nyo pala, mas sa developing countries pala, in terms of food loss and food waste. Sa developing countries, mas problema ang post-harvest loss or yung food loss kesa waste. Ang food waste, malaking problema yan sa developed countries, yung mga sa US, sa Europe, etc. So where do losses occur, no? So this is the typical flow of commodities from the farm until it reaches the consumers. So depending on the source or production area and the consumption centers, pwedeng yung chain na yan, umikli, pwedeng humaba, no? Kung ikaw yung plantita, nagtanim ka lamang sa malapit na bakuran mo o sa bakuran mo, ay clean and chain, no? Pagka-harvest diretso na sa sa plato mo o sa kitchen, no? Pero kung traditionally, meron kang source, for example, Baguio, no? Source ng vegetables, consumption centers, Manila, ang haba ng chain na yan. Kaya ang losses, pwedeng mas mataas, no? So, itong pandemic na to affected, no, itong supply chain, no. So nagawa kami ng isang pag-aaral para lang ma-validate itong mga losses. Pumunta ng Divisoria sa wholesale market, tapos ibinalik ng Bae at saka sa Los Baños market para lang ma-measure ang extent ng losses. Pagka-harvest pa lang ng kamatis, meron na 1.6% loss. Dinala sa packing shed, malapit lang yung packing, ito pa ng kamatis, galing sa may paanan ng Banahaw, bundok Banahaw. Pagdating doon sa collection center or packing shed ng trader, meron ulit losses. Talagang hindi na siya pwedeng ibenta, 3.2. Nung dumating ng Divisoria, no, kasi mga nakakarton, yung boxes, ang kamatis, no, mataas ang loss, 8%, dahil madaming pisa, madaming nabulok din agad, no? Pagdating sa retail, tumaas na ng tumaas ang percent losses, no? Pinaabot namin na hanggang 4 na araw na nasa retail display, umabot ng 27.7%. So, kita natin, ano yung mga critical points doon sa supply chain where losses occur, no? So, ano ba yung causes ng food loss? Anong nangyari? Anong dahilan, no? Ang una, yung tinatawag na inherent perishability. Fruits and vegetables are highly perishable. Aggravated pa iyan ng mga mataas na temperature. Kasi mataas na temperature, ang bilis ng metabolism, ang bilis ng deteriorative changes. Tsaka makita nyo dyan sa pictures, ano yung handling system natin? Ano yung packaging system natin? Poor packaging. Wala nang maupuan yung mga kargador, nakaupo sa naka-empacking mangga. Wala nang space din yung kargador sa truck, nakaupo na rin dyan sa mga leafy vegetables na nakapack. Sa market, ganun din, sa nakalagay ang mga produkto, no? And then, lack of market orientation ng ibang mga stakeholders in the supply chain. Kasi nga, limited din ang kanilang knowledge base. Ano na ba yung requirements ng market? Inadequate infrastructure and market facilities, ano pa ba, support services, yan ang mga technical and extra technical constraints that result in post-harvest losses. Sa food waste naman, bali dun sa base dun sa pag-aaral na ginawa din ng post-harvest, no, ang dahilan ng food waste ay nalimutang iluto, no, nalimutan ni nanay, nalimutang kainin, pwedeng mangyari yan. Yung mga namimili na sa supermarket na there is a wide range of commodities, tapos minsan lang sa isang linggo mamili, nagkakaroon ng overbuying, tapos hindi naman nakakain, nasisira, pumapangit, ayaw nang kainin. So ano ba yung consumer attitude towards fruit and vegetable waste? Mansin nyo, 35% they are not bothered, walang pake, no? 40%, a little bit lang, medyo nag-worry, pero a little bit, di ko alam kung anong ginawa nila, no? Dapat naging conscious na sila na may mga waste at sayang talaga yung waste. So, ano ba yung impact ng food loss and waste, no? We are wasting about 30% and lost and wasted. Anong equivalent yan? 1.3 billion tons wasted annually. Globally yan, globally. So, it negatively impacts on hunger, no? Yung social impact. Maraming nagugutom. Pag nawala yung pagkain na yan, wala na rin yung nutrients. So, it is a loss or waste of nutrients. Economic impact, negative din ang impact lalo doon sa mga stakeholders in the supply chain, simula sa farmer, no, hanggang sa atin sa consumer. Sa farmer, pwedeng lower price, ang buying price. Pagdating sa ating consumers, it is higher selling price. Kasi, syempre, kung ikaw mang trader, no, ayaw mong malugi. So, babawiin mo, no, yung losses na yon in terms of price. No. So, meron diyang conventional data lang, mga pencil pushing lang yan. If you have 15% loss, meron kang 1 tonelada or 1,000 kilograms. So, ang equivalent niyan, 150 kilograms na agad ang nawala kung sino man dyan sa stakeholders. So, napakalaki ng impact dyan in terms of economics. Kung ang toneladang hinaharvest ay milyon na. O, imagine niyo yon, no? So, environmental impact, no? Yung mga losses and waste na yan, yung mga hindi nakain, napatapon, saan ba pumupunta yung mga yan? Pumupunta yan sa mga basurahan, sa mga landfill, no? So, it is a source of greenhouse gas, no? That impacts on climate change, no? Ano ba yung mga greenhouse gas, no? Ang isa sa pagganyang mga nabubulok, isa methane, no? Ano yan? It contributes to climate change. And it is a waste of resources and inputs. The land, the water that we used in producing the crop, the energy that we put into production, they are wasted, no? So, about 6% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, they come from food loss and waste, no? So, because of the challenges, no, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, the challenges in the food, no, the United Nations General Assembly, 2015 meeting yata yun, so they adopted the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, no, not only for food, but for almost every aspects of our life, no. SDG 12 focuses on responsible consumption, especially itong tinatawag na SDG 12.3 ng target ay by 2030 half per capita global food waste at the retail and consumer levels and reduce food loss along the production and supply chains including post-harvest losses, no? So, while the world is slowly gaining some grounds in terms of attaining or achieving the goals or the SDGs, here comes COVID-19 pandemic. It is global. No? It is unexpected. It is quick. It is lingering and severe, and it impacts in almost all aspects of our lives. So in terms of food, anong nangyari? So the global COVID-19 pandemic exposed the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of the supply chains, no? Nagkaroon ng malaking concern sa food access, nagkaroon ng local food shortages, and there are food losses due to restrictions in the movement of the commodity, no? So napakalaking challenge more than ever, no? Food and nutrition security becomes a bigger and a real challenge. So how do we solve the food needs, no? The common ways or traditional solutions are expand the area of production. Pero sabi nga natin, increasing urbanization, industrialization, nare-reduce na yung agricultural lands, no? Increase the yield by adopting high-yielding varieties, appropriate technologies, modern technologies, no? Smart agriculture. Third, control the rate of population growth, no? Sana ma-achieve. And the fourth is we reduce the post-harvest losses. This should not be forgotten. Post-harvest loss reduction is a complementary method of solving food needs, and there are several advantages. One is, if you save the food, you increase the food supply to feed more people. It is relatively cheaper than increasing the yield. Yung sinasabing tender loving care, no? Malaki ang impact niyan in terms of reducing losses, it is less risky, and then the resources and the energy are conserved, and it is more rapid in producing the desired results. So, in essence, in food loss and waste reduction, the following should be addressed. No? Awareness and advocacy, just like what we are doing now in our webinar. This is increasing awareness, and hopefully magkaroon tayo ng mga advocacies bawat isa sa atin. Capacity building or capability building of stakeholders in the supply chain, development and adoption of food loss and waste reduction technologies or strategies, investments in infrastructures, logistics, and other support services. Meron ng mga investments before, but siguro dagdagan natin pa rin ang suporta dito sa mga infrastructures na yan and logistics. No? And food loss and waste reduction is a shared responsibility. Each one of us has a role in reducing food loss and waste. Tayong lahat ang nakikinig sa webinar, no, lahat tayo ay may papel, no, in reducing food loss and waste, especially during this time of the pandemic. Let us stop food loss and waste for the people, for the planet. Salamat po sa pakikinig.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you po sa inyong very informative presentation patungkol po sa importansya ng food loss and waste. So, binanggit din ni ma'am, no, yung difference ng food loss and waste. Yes, meron po silang pagkakaiba. At saan nga ba nagkakaroon ng kabawasan sa pagkain along the supply chain o yung tinatawag na critical points. Meron din sinabi si ma'am tungkol sa economic, social, and environmental impacts of food loss and waste. For our participants po, if you have questions sa ating presentation ni Ma'am Isguera, Dr. Isguera, you can type your questions in the Zoom chat box as well as sa ating Facebook and YouTube comment sections. Now, we will entertain questions po from our participants. Ma'am, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, mayroon po tayong question dito, ma'am. May inauna na pong magtanong.
Sino yung matapang na yan?
May matapang na nag-question na, ma'am. Anonymous participant, ma'am.
Ako na, baka estudyante yan. Joke, sige, okay.
First question, ma'am. Yung fruits and vegetables daw po, ma'am, na considered rejects at unmarketable ay pinakain po sa animals, halimbawa po sa baboy, ma'am. Masasabi daw po ba, ma'am, yun na food loss and waste?
Pinakain sa baboy. Oo, kasi
yung rejects po at unmarketable.
Oo, kasi yung mga fruits and vegetables na yan, produce mo yan. You produce the fruits, the vegetables for humans, para pagkain ng tao. No? Kung yan ay sabihin mo na ipinakain ko naman sa baboy, hindi pa naman siya tao, no? So ang food loss and waste, that deals on the wasted and lost food intended for humans. Kaya yung definition nga, pag may loss in edibility, in quality, no, that will affect yung acceptability sa humans, ayawan nila, considered food loss yun. Considered food loss and waste. Ipinakain mo sa baboy, considered food loss and waste yon dahil para sa tao dapat yon.
Alright, ma'am. So, ayun, considered din siya as food loss and waste. Okay, ma'am. May second question po tayo. Pangalawang matapang, ma'am. What can consumers and retailers do to help reduce post-harvest losses po? Ulitin ko po, ma'am. What can consumers and retailers do to help reduce post-harvest losses?
Pag consumers and retailers sa retailers, siguro yung mga namimili diyan, kahit dyan sa Grobo, kung sa wet market o yung mga talipapa, papansin nyo, nabibilad sa araw. Isa sa pinakasimpleng ano yan bilad sa araw, mabilis masisira. Ang simpleng paraan lang dyan, yung ba may naglalagay ng payong na malaki, huwag mong paarawan. At saka yung kung mapansin nyo, kung paano yung mga retailers mag-stock, yung mag-pile, mag-display ng commodity nila, para ba walang kaingat-ingat. No? So, dalawang simpleng paraan, ingatan ang pag-display ng commodity, pag ano ba, yung mga magandang paraan. At saka wag maarawan. At saka yun nga, wag doon sa sa lupa, meron yung latag pero natatapakan yung latag, mga ganyan. Hindi lang yung quality ang affected, pati safety. No, safety nung mga tao, no, kakain noong natalsikan ng putik, ng alikabok, okay lang kung huhugasan ng maayos. Sa consumers naman, siguro ang isang mabisang paraan ay kasi tayo minsan parang may attitude na ay parang ang sarap noon, parang bibili ka yung walang meal planning, walang meal planning ay isa sa dahilan, no. Kaya maganda yung nagagawa ng listahan na ano ba yung mga iluluto sa linggong ito o kaya in the next 2 days, ganyan-ganyan. Huwag tayo maging impulse buyer na hindi kasali doon sa natin. At saka yung mga consumers, yun nga, wag niyong aaksayin, gayahin natin sila Dean, sila Sir Janrel na wag tayong mahihiya na ubos yung ating laman ng plato, no? Wag tayong o-order ng madami, mga ganyan. Yun ang mga simpleng paraan.
Alright, ma'am. So maraming salamat po, ma'am. Opo, meron pa to yung mga questions, ma'am. Siguro ma'am, meron for this portion ma'am, no, mag-entertain pa po tayo ng isang question and later on for our participants po, yung mga questions ninyo dyan sa Zoom and sa comment section, magkakaroon po tayo ng final Q&A after po ng all participation ng ating resource speakers. So ma'am, for the last question, meron po tayo from FB, Sir or Ma'am Pat Zerda po, ang kanyang pangalan. How to lessen food waste po at the home level? Sa bahay daw po.
Sa bahay. O, pag kayo hinainan ng nanay ninyo, kayo estudyante, mga bata pa, at may gulay. No, kainin niyo yung gulay. Huwag kayong kukuha pati ng madami, no? Yung kaya niyo lang munang ubusin, no? Yan ang sa bahay kasi diyan talaga mataas ang ang waste, no. So, kukuha ka lang ng kaya mong ubusin. Pwede naman kumuha ulit. Di naman bawal kumuha ulit no? At kung ano yung nasa plato nyo, hindi lang sa fruits, vegetables, pati doon sa rice, no? Alam nyo ba na malaki ang ating malaki ang consumption natin ng rice. Marami din tayong wini-waste na rice, no? Marami nang ginawang pag-aaral dyan. So, ubusin natin kung ano yung nasa plato natin. Yung sa ref, yun doon sa advance sa pagkain, nasa isip ko na ref agad Kasi sa ref, yung mga nanay, bisitahin natin yung ating chiller. Kasi minsan nalilimutan natin kung hindi ba kung man, kahit kayo, no? Tignan nyo, ano ba yung laman ng ref bago kayo mamili, no? Meron pa bang hindi na iluto, no? Tsaka yung iba pa, yung titingnan nyo, yung mga lalo naka-retail pack, yung merong best before, yung para expiry, no? Huwag nating hayaang ma-expire. Hindi lang sa fruits, sa vegetables, kahit doon sa basta pagkain, no? So, yun sa plato. Sa pagluluto, wag mag-overcook, wag madaming iluluto kahit natatakot po ng anak nyo. I-estimate nyo yung kayang maubos. Yun po, no? Alam naman po natin lahat kung paano talaga. I-practice lang po natin yung alam na natin.
Okay, ma'am. So magsisimula po talaga yan sa family or sa household level po. So may kanya-kanya po tayong contribution para po mabawasan or ma-minimize ang food loss and waste. Ma'am, maraming salamat po ma'am sa pagsagot po ng ating mga katanungan. Babalikan ko po kayo mamaya ma'am para po sa final Q&A. Thank you po ulit.
Okay, thank you din. Thank you.
Okay po. Alright, so ang daming questions. Reserve po natin yan para mamaya sa ating final Q&A. No? Babalikan po natin yan. And for our second presentation, Dr. Serrano will discuss the topic on post-harvest handling technologies and protocols on fresh fruits and vegetables.
Good afternoon. The topic which I was asked to present this afternoon is about post-harvest handling technologies and protocols to reduce losses in fresh fruits and vegetables. So first, I would like to present to you the food pipeline or supply chain by which fruits and vegetables passes through as they are harvested from the farm until they are consumed. Consumption here means they serve as raw materials for processing, or they are consumed fresh by consumers. As you will see in this slide, the post-harvest system is said to have the weakest link in the chain, as losses and downgrading of quality occur at this point. And the food pipeline is made up of several elements, and these are the infrastructure, the stakeholders concerned, the technologies, the management, as well as the primary processes or steps. And it is said that losses are incurred along the chain. And the Philippine context, the problems and issues in the post-harvest handling chain are the following. You have huge losses, which we're going to take note of in the succeeding slides. There is long supply chain and multi-layered marketing system. We have poor infrastructure and logistics support. As you will see here, our country has a paved ratio of roads of only 23 as compared to Indonesia, which is 0.48, and Malaysia, which is 0.75. So we have the lowest paved ratio of our road system. We have poor farm-to-market roads as well as poor market information system. And we have an inadequate knowledge of the stakeholders on quality and safety issues. So, as you will see in these slides, we have determined that the post-harvest operations of cabbage from Benguet to Manila, which is about 29%, and for calamansi, 11 to 33%. And you will also see the various state of the packaging materials that we use to contain our products, our produce. Okay, and what about for the global losses? How much fruit and vegetables are lost? According to FAO statistics, as cited by SWIP at the Alberta Farmer Express in 2019, fruits and vegetables, that includes also root crops, incur 40 to 50% losses of the total grown, which means of the total harvest. 50% of these losses occur at the farm, 40% at the plate. And it was stated that the nature of loss was in the form of physical loss, such as trimmings, rotten, and imperfections. Now compare this to cereals, which is 30%, oilseeds, dairy meat, 20%, and fish, 35%. Okay, why are there so much losses in fruits and vegetables? First and foremost, they have short shelf life, the average of which is 2 to 7 days under normal ambient conditions, due to their perishable nature and the fact that they are living entities. They are prone to the attack of rot-causing organisms, and they respond to the environment which they are subjected to, and their quality at harvest determines their quality and storability after harvest. So what I'm going to show you here are the losses that are incurred in fruits and vegetables here in the Philippines, based on the studies that we have conducted and in some other institutions. And as you will see, for vegetables, we have the common ones here, like tomato, broccoli, and cabbage. And I would like you to focus on the ones that have red fonts, which means that this study is considered actual losses based on actual handling of fruits and vegetables with and without post-harvest interventions. So let's take, for example, tomato. You have those tomatoes that were transported from Laguna to Nueva Ecija, for example. In Cain, there was a 48% losses that incurred, while those transported in plastic crate left 12%. The handling procedure that we made here means that we made the handling hand in hand with that of Cain and the use of plastic crate. And for cabbage, we have the use of non-refrigerated truck in plastic crates and refrigerated truck in plastic crates. So the intervention here is the refrigerated truck and non-refrigerated truck. So you will see the reduction in the weight loss of cabbage. And then for cabbage also, those transported during the hot and wet season and the cool and dry season, you have substantial reduction loss in cabbage when transported during the cool and dry season. Okay, highland vegetables that were transported in non-refrigerated truck and refrigerated truck or van. So again, you see 40% for non-refrigerated, 12% in refrigerated van. Okay, so you have this losses in banana, in Saba bananas, in Corinthians bananas, and in mixed bananas. Okay, from the longer the route that the bananas traveled, of course you have a lot of losses, like you have 30 to 40% losses. Okay, you have also papaya, pineapple, and calamansi. Okay. Mango, farms, you see at the farm level you have about 5% losses, but at the exporter's packing house in Manila you have almost 87% loss. And from Mindanao, Davao del Sur to Manila you have 26 to 30% losses. But in Pangasinan to Manila, you have only about 2 to 11%. So, habang malayo ang dinadaanan ng mga products, you would expect them to have greater losses. Okay, this is an example of mangoes that were unbagged during production and that were handled and shipped to Hong Kong. And you will see the range of losses at the buying station. You have already 68% were checked at the buying station. The exporter's warehouse, you have 14%. So out of the 32% that were good, you have 14% of that are were rejected already. And those 42% of export grade and transported or shipped to Hong Kong, upon arrival, you have already 71 to 81% drop in price due to onset of anthracnose. In fact, you have 5% anthracnose already. Okay. So, from those data, we can say that post-harvest losses are commodity, location, and situation specific. And the causes of losses, I was not able to put in here. The causes of losses would be those that are rotten, unmarketable, and those that have substantial loss in weight or in marketable weight. Now, post-harvest technologies and protocols aim to reduce losses from farm to plate. And as losses are reduced, you increase food availability and it addresses food security issues. The other aim is to maintain quality, both visual, safety, quality, and nutritional quality. And the result of which would enhance the marketability and competitiveness of the fruits and vegetables, which will redound to increase income of stakeholders. As well, if you maintain the safety and the nutritional qualities, you also reduce malnutrition in the population, which will address nutrition security issues. So, yan ang maganda sa post-harvest technologies and protocols that are applied in order to reduce losses. Okay, just a review of the post-harvest handling system. The red fonts provide you the practices, the post-harvest handling practices. So you have harvesting at the farm. At the farm shed, you have sorting and packaging, hulling. At the packing house, you have market preparation, such as sorting, packaging, disease control measures. Then at the processing plant, you have, of course, raw material handling. And the storage, you have the storage system, storage protocol, ripening. And then transport is a key element in the post-harvest handling chain, and which will bring the produce from the farm up to the wholesale market, the retail market, as well as consumers. Okay. So these are some of the results of our studies in the application of post-harvest technologies or good handling practices to reduce losses. We've done this for calamansi from Mindanao, Sibugay in Mindanao, Zamboanga Sibugay in Mindanao to Manila, and with the technology, without technology, you have 46.5% loss. With post-harvest interventions from the farm up to transport is about only 8.3%. Holds true for broccoli, you have 38% without technology, which is modified atmosphere packaging. And then the percent loss with the modified atmosphere packaging, you have 6.2%. Papaya lends well with post-harvest MA packaging from 37 to 48% to 8 to 15% if you transport this with MA packaging. I have shown you about the tomato transport from Laguna to Nueva Ecija in bamboo basket, incurring 48%, but using plastic crate alone, you have 10% loss only. And the control of soft rot at the farm using alum and cabbage, you have substantial loss. In Manila, for example, you have 78% and 15 to 20% if you apply alum at the farm. And the transport of vegetable from Baguio to Manila, you have non-refrigerated, incurring 40% loss. For the refrigerated vegetables, you have only 12% loss. So that shows that indeed the application of post-harvest technologies and good handling practices would redound to reduction of losses in fruits and vegetables. Okay, so let me show you some of these practices, good practices as well as handling practices. At the farm, do we do practices that will bring about reduction in losses? Yes, because there is a link between the farm and post-harvest handling step. And it is said that the quality and storability of fresh fruits and vegetables post-harvest is determined by the quality at pre-harvest. And one measure or approach that is now being institutionalized and being applied at the farm level is compliance to the good agricultural practices standard. And if we comply with this, we expect that the produce will be safe and is of good quality as the commodity leaves the farm. So most supermarkets nowadays require that the fresh fruits and vegetables that enter into their marketplace come from GAP compliant farm or GAP certified farm. Okay, at the processing plant, it is important that the processor select or accept only good quality raw materials from suppliers because good quality raw materials would spell good quality products. Okay, so wala na yung pangit lang ang ipaprocess ngayon, no. Hindi yun tama. Dapat ang i-process yung good quality raw materials para maganda yung quality ng produkto. Okay, now there are pre-processing steps that one can do at the farm first before the raw materials are brought into the processing plant. These pre-processing steps are sorting or peeling or sanitizing done at the farm prior to acceptance of the processing plant to reduce resorting labor costs and allow raw material waste utilization. So as you will see here, the pre-processing steps at the farm done for cassava, for export for example, is done at the farm. And you incur, at the processing plant, there was only what? 1% loss of peeled cassava destined for export market. Now let's go to harvesting. What can be done at the harvesting step? And harvest fruits and vegetables at the right stage of maturity to ensure desirable eating qualities using some harvest maturity indices established for the purpose. So for most vegetables, we have these indices. They should be tender, immature, and they have attained the desired size, and no seed bulging in the case of beans, okra, cucumber, loofah, bitter gourd, and eggplant. And for most fruit vegetables, like tomato, the tomatoes should be mature, showing tinge of color change. And for bulbs and root crops, you have drying and toppling of upper leaves for them to be ready to be harvested. For cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower, you should have compact head and attainment of desired size. And for iceberg or heading lettuce, kaiba siya sa cabbage because the head should be soft and loosely packed. The leaves are loosely packed. Kasi pag matigas na yan at mabigat, it means that the iceberg lettuce is already mature at mapait na siya, hindi na siya masarap. Okay, now for the fruits like mango, so you have here some of the indices that we have established, flattening of the shoulder, and we have a technology by sinking, by allowing the fruits to sink in 1% salt solution. If they are sinkers, then they are considered mature. The banana, drying of plant leaves, pineapple, widening grooves, papaya, the tinge of yellow at the apical end of the fruit. So hindi doon sa stem end, kundi doon sa apical portion, yung pagka-yellow. Jackfruit, widening of grooves, rambutan and lanzones, red color of peel and spin turns, straw yellow and brown peduncle for lanzones. So ito, critical din ito sa lanzones because pag may nakikita pang green peduncle doon sa lanzones, ibig sabihin yan, maasim pa siya, hindi pa siya mature. And for strawberry, at least 3/4 of the fruit surface develops color, and for avocado, the loss of skin gloss. So hindi na siya shiny, no? And for calamansi, we have determined that greater than 2 centimeters in diameter is good index kasi napaka-juicy na yan. And for muskmelon, you have the 1/2 to 3/4 slit, wherein the melon can be pushed with moderate thumb pressure from the stem. Okay, so during harvesting, you have to use appropriate harvesting tools and aids and rigid harvest containers. And you have to harvest during the coolest time of the day for most fruits and vegetables. And you harvest during the later part of the day for those with latex like mango, papaya, and leafy vegetables that are prone to breakage of stems and leaves due to turgidity. Now, the packing house operations are practices that are done in a packing house, and these are operations towards market in marketing your product. And this may be done, the packing house operations may be done inside a packing house or in the field. So you have field packing. For example, in the strawberry, a very good way by which you reduce losses is field packing. You pack there right there in the field. That holds, and there you can do field packing also for mangoes. Sorting and grading are done in the packing house. Curing is one that is done also to prevent sprouting in onion, to toughen skin in pomelo. You have a certain temperature as well as duration by which you expose this onion, garlic, and pomelo to certain temperature and relative humidity. Okay, and the latexing is also done, and one chemical that can be used to remove latex is the use of 1% alum, as well as for disease control of soft rot in cabbage. You can also make use of 1% alum solution. And of course, your packing is done in the packing house. Okay, washing is important for those that are to be washed, like carrots. Okay, by the way, these carrots as well as the root crops, they should not be washed if they have to be stored, no, prior to marketing. Nabubulok sila, madali sila mabulok pag wina-wash sila prior to marketing. Pero pag bago nyo sila ipagbibi, then you can wash them. And for those, lettuce, for example, can be washed, but a very good way of doing this is through a series of washes, which may be more effective than a single wash. Okay, now we have developed a protocol, washing protocol for vegetables that are either whole or that are either chopped or cut, no? So this is the protocol that was established by Ms. Flor, and this is with the use of 1/2 teaspoon liquid detergent in 25 liters of water, and the use of 150 ppm chlorine or 6 tablespoons of Clorox per liter of water. Okay, for disease control, we have developed a technique. We call it the hot water treatment for disease control, the reduction of latex stains in mango and papaya, alleviation of physiological disorder in pineapple. And this technique should be applied within 36 hours after harvest. And so you have this mango, solo papaya, calamansi, and pineapple that blends well with hot water treatment, and you have various temperature as well as the duration of the treatment. We have developed a PHTRC electric-driven temperature-controlled hot water tank, whose design can be availed of at PHTRC. For packaging, of course, the use of rigid packing material is very good during transport and storage to minimize damage of these fruits and vegetables. And we have such technique as modified atmosphere packaging, which is the use of polyethylene or polypropylene plastic bags to contain commodities during storage or during transport. By the way, MA packaging can be used during transport, and also it is the benefits would be good and during refrigerated transport. So these are the recommended MAP packaging using polyethylene plastic bag for intact fresh produce to extend shelf life, maintain freshness, and this can be used in conjunction with storage and transport. So you have this number of pinholes or number of punch holes that you can put on the plastic in order to provide the necessary amount of atmosphere into the commodities inside the bag for them to not to rot or not to deteriorate easily. Okay, now during transport, these are some of the best transport system that you can have, and the transport vehicle must promote air circulation, and you should have proper stacking patterns, and you also have to minimize movement of containers in transit, Wala. And the use of appropriate containers and liners and cautions, and the use of handling aids. Importante itong handling aids during hauling into the transport system. Storage technologies, you have refrigerated storage and transport. So you can group the commodities according to their requirement of temperature and relative humidity. So you have these ones, and you have, it is said that do not mix ethylene producers and ethylene sensitive commodities in just one area. So you have here a list of those ethylene producers and the ethylene sensitive ones. Okay. And here we have strawberries and broccoli, which could be transported in retail packs inside the styrofoam box topped with ice to extend shelf life. Okay, there are non-refrigerated storage systems that we have developed also, the evaporative cooling. For example, the use of moist coconut coir dust. You can store tomatoes for 21 days using this system. And the evaporative cooler also using wetted charcoal pad. And some of rehydrating water and in package, no? Okay. Now, how do we reduce losses at supermarkets and retail shops? Without processing or fresh cuts, which means you can peel, you can cut, then you slice to produce ready to eat or ready to cook fruits and vegetables. Okay, so we have a lot of this already at the supermarkets. And one way also of reducing losses in supermarket is for these packages, MP MAP packages, to put on sale a day or two prior to end of shelf life, no? So you can do this to reduce wastage. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Serrano, for that very informative and detailed presentation. Ngayon nalaman natin ang mga kadahilanan ng post-harvest losses at yung mga actual losses ng fruits and vegetables. Na binanggit din ni Ma'am sa presentation niya yung iba't ibang mga post-harvest technologies that would maintain the quality of fruits and vegetables. So Ma'am, good morning po Ma'am.
So. Good morning.
Good morning po Ma'am. So meron po tayong mga questions na po dito from our participants sa Zoom and sa Facebook and YouTube comment section Ma'am. Ma'am, our first question po, I think this is from the perspective of our industry stakeholder po. Ang lagi pong naririnig na recommendation para hindi agad masira po ang commodities ay yung cold chain. The question po ma'am, is it feasible and economically viable considering the logistics situation in the country?
It is about cold chain, actually, kung nakita ninyo yung use ng refrigerated truck and non-refrigerated truck, that study was part of the cold chains that we conducted, and there was really a reduction of losses at the supermarket where the vegetables were brought. So I think from 40% to 12%, that was the reduction that was made, and of course, you have the logistics problem, but we also have demonstrated the economic feasibility of this cold chain procedure or approach.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for answering the question. Another question, ma'am, from our Zoom participant. Sir Ma'am Yigisu. Dr. Serrano, I would like to know loss assessment methodology used to estimate losses mentioned in the table on loss reduction with application of pH technology / good handling practices.
So the loss assessment methodologies. Is it you, Yi? She is, or she was my advisee in her PhD program here at UPLB. She's from Myanmar, I will email to you the loss assessment procedure that we always conduct or make use of in the conduct of determining the losses in fruits and vegetables as they pass through the handling chain. But there are three steps. One is to determine first, you determine the actual handling route and the problems that you encounter during that procedure, and then afterwards you determine where at the handling steps do the problems occur. For example, how much losses at each step, and then you do an actual handling trial, making use hand in hand with the existing system, with that of your modified or modified system, incorporating whatever interventions that you have thought of in order to address the problem along the chain.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Thank you rin po for the question, Dr. Yi Su. We have an international participant at this moment. Ma'am, we will entertain one more question po from our Facebook participant naman po, ma'am. The name is Jazz Daguob. The question po, ma'am, is there an assurance that fruits and vegetables washed with detergent and sanitized with hypochlorite are safe to eat?
Yeah. That study by Miss Flor was funded by DOST, and so we, after washing with detergent, after washing with Clorox, for example, we determined the safety of the fruits and vegetables after doing all of this. And what is good about this is that you do not incur a substantial residual Clorox or detergent in the fruit and vegetables using this particular procedure. So you have a concentration that is involved, and you have to follow the right concentration of the detergent as well as the Clorox that you have to make use of. And what is good about this washing procedure is that almost 90% of the microbials are removed, using this washing procedure.
Wow, thank you, ma'am, for answering the question. So for our participants, thank you po sa mga questions ninyo. Nababasa po namin yan later on po. I hope we can accommodate all your questions. Again, ma'am, thank you po. Babalikan po namin kayo, ma'am, for the final Q&A. Maraming salamat po, Dr. Sguerra and Dr. Serrano, for that meaningful Q&A. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dan.
So now we still have two resource persons ating pakikinggan, no? So let me introduce our third speaker. Our third speaker is the current director of the Institute of Food Science and Technology, CAPS UPLB. She is also an associate professor of the Institute. With more than 15 years of experience in research, she has published several articles in scientific journals and has presented in scientific conferences. Her research works focus on food safety management systems, quality systems and quality assurance, food safety, food microbiology, food processing, among others. She is no other than Dr. Lotis E. Mopera. And for our last speaker, he is the current director of the Research and Development Cluster Head, Philippine Center for Postharvest Development and Mechanization, or PhilMech. He has been working for the last 35 years on post-harvest RTE with PhilMech in various capacities as a planner, researcher, extensionist, and administrator. Upon graduating from UPLB with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Agricultural Economics, he joined PhilMech as planning assistant and rose from the ranks to be appointed as Director 1. He is also a career executive service officer and a holder of MS in Agricultural Economics from UPLB. Let's welcome Mr. Arnel Ramir Apaga. And for the third presentation, Dr. Mopera will discuss the topic on food processing technologies, answer to food crisis during pandemic.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me to this very relevant webinar that discusses the impact of COVID-19 pandemic to the agricultural sector. Today, I will talk about food processing technologies as an answer to food crisis during pandemic. The occurrence of COVID-19 pandemic worldwide has caused a disruption in the food supply chain. There were changes in food production, food processing, as well as how agricultural produce reach the end user. This caused the agricultural sector to rethink their strategies that will suit the new normal. During the first few months of the pandemic, there was an increase in the demand for processed food. This was very evident in the supermarket, where shelves are readily emptied and goods that were delivered are gone in a snap of a finger because of the panic brought about by this pandemic. Meanwhile, the lockdown declared in different areas prohibited the transport of agricultural produce from point of production to the marketplace. In the Philippines, for instance, we heard a lot of produce being dumped or wasted because there was simply no market for them. The first few months of the pandemic also marks the peak season for some of the agricultural produce from northern Luzon. The disruption in the food supply chain caused a lot of economic losses for our farmers, and this made their products less accessible to the consumer. Further, these products contains very high amount of moisture, total soluble solids, and other nutrients that makes them highly fermentable, perishable, and susceptible to spoilage and eventually could lead to food losses or food wastage. Now, can we think of a way to alleviate such situation? Our answer, food processing. Food processing is the transformation of raw materials or ingredients by physical or chemical means. By doing so, the end result will be a more stable product that can be used for transport or logistics. It also means that we can combine different agricultural produce to produce a new product that is marketable and that can be easily prepared and served. So why is processing the answer to food crisis during pandemic? These are the reasons why. Food processing allows us to preserve the raw material and prolong the shelf life, not only for storage, but also for logistics as well. We also improve the quality of food in terms of its sensorial and nutritive properties. If the food is processed correctly, it is guaranteed that we follow certain regulation in processing the food, thus assuring its safety. We can also make food more available, and by creating a new product, we provide a diverse and healthier options for our consumer. We also increase the economic value of food once we process it. These are some of the food processing technologies that can help alleviate food crisis during the times of the pandemic. Drying can be done by using a drying oven or the heat of the sun to reduce the moisture content of food, providing stability during storage and inhibit the growth of certain types of microorganisms because of the low moisture content. Common applications of drying are for fruits and vegetables and for fish and meat as well. Canning, on the other hand, uses thermal treatment in order to preserve the food. How? by eliminating microorganisms that causes spoilage by subjecting the food at specific time and temperature. Canning is a popular food processing strategy that allows longer shelf life as well as provide or preserve nutrients in food. Freezing, in contrast to canning, uses low temperature to preserve your food. Commonly used for meat or seafood, as you see in your household. Freezing similarly uses low temperature to inhibit the growth of microorganisms to prevent spoilage. Fermentation is another approach to process your food. Here, we allow the growth of beneficial microorganisms that produce certain metabolites that will inhibit the growth of spoilage microorganisms. Fermentation also improves the sensorial property of food, so it is not surprising that during the times of pandemic, there was a hype in the production of fermented food like kimchi. At this point, I would like to address the question on how processing technologies can help answer our concerns of food crisis with reference to the four pillars of food security as reported by the Food and Agriculture Organization. According to the recommendation, during the pandemic, we should secure essential food stocks for a period of 6 to 12 weeks when normal supply of food can be disrupted. This would allow for food availability. In general, processed foods are shelf stable and can be stored for 6 months to 2 years, depending on the processing method. Another recommendation is to ensure that the population can obtain the food that they need or that the food is accessible to the end user. Processed food can be transported and made accessible and available to the consumers through different logistic means depending on the packaging material and the processing technology that was used to produce the food. There is also a necessity of increased hygiene, nutrition, and safe food. Of course, when talking about the pandemic, we have to make sure that our food is safe. Processed food are produced under controlled conditions and regulatory compliance to safety, so we are more or less assured that the food produced or processed complies with food safety regulations. We also have to address or reduce malnutrition during times of pandemics, and that falls under the pillar of food utilization. Processed food can provide basic nutritional requirement as well as be fortified when necessary to address particular nutritional condition or age group. To end my discussion, let me quote this from the FAO. A global strategy requires significantly increased financial resources for investment in infrastructure, storage, processing, transport, human capital, extension research, and institutional change, often in public-private partnership. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I was able to give you an insight on how several food processing technologies and food preservation techniques can be used to address food crisis in times of the pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you po, Dr. Mopera, for that very informative presentation. Panigurado marami tayong natutunan patungkol sa food processing, yung mga pamamaraan na maaaring gawin lalo na kapag may oversupply, lalo na ngayong panahon ng pandemic. Good morning po, Ma'am Lotis. Hello po. Ma'am, meron po tayo ditong questions sa ating mga participants, no?
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am. For the first question, ma'am, knowing the absence of nearby processing facilities or limited equipment for processing in major tomato producing areas, what is the best or the most convenient way to process or preserved tomatoes, especially during high supply wherein tons of tomatoes are thrown away? Ulitin ko po, ma'am, knowing the absence of nearby processing facilities or limited equipment for processing in major tomato producing areas, what is the best or the most convenient way to process or preserve tomatoes?
Okay. Na-catch niyo yung attention nila dahil dun sa picture na maraming na-wasted
Apo,
na
ma'am.
tomatoes.
Yes.
Okay po. So, for our farmers, maybe what they can do at the household level, kung marami talagang kamatis, is pwede pong i-blanch and then i-freeze po natin. But that would be too expensive for them, right? Okay, so at hindi rin kaya yung gawin ng in big batches. Kung tonelada yung ina-address natin na na problema ng tomatoes. So, but if they have a cooperative, okay, farmers cooperative, so pwede rin po na gawin nating tomato sauce or tomato ketchup. Okay? Okay, para kasi kapag hindi agad natin sila pin-process, tapos wala kang storage facility, ang tendency talaga, i-dump natin yung kamatis. So, ang pinakamadali po, i-blanch, i-freeze, or immediately i-process into tomato sauce or tomato ketchup.
Alright, ma'am. Opo. I think tinanong din nila to, ma'am, no?
I think that's the most simple way I could suggest.
Alright, ma'am. Thank you po. Kasi di ba ma'am, may mga nababalitaan din po tayo, ma'am, no? Yung mga tomato farmers natin po ay tinatapon na lang din po yung mga, lalo po pag may oversupply ng kamatis. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, for the second question, meron po tayo dito from our participant sa Zoom po, Mr. Van Paolo Chavez po. During the pandemic, when we are discouraged from having face-to-face contact, how can this information on food technologies be disseminated effectively to the community, especially those without internet access? Ulitin ko po yung question, ma'am. During the pandemic, when we are discouraged from having face-to-face contact, how can this information on food technologies be disseminated effectively to the community, especially those without internet access? Okay.
Hello?
Hello, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes po.
Hello. Sorry. Yan. Hirap ng live, di ba? Hirap ng live so you feel me. Okay. So for I think I got a little bit of a question. So how do we disseminate all of this information, lalo na dun sa walang mga internet access? Okay. So I leave this actually po yung mga LGU, they have extension programs. Okay? Minsan sponsored by DOST or DA. So we participate in those kinds of extension programs po. Na pumupunta po talaga kami doon sa mga areas or some of the staff of IFST. We, for instance, on a personal note, we go to those areas and teach yung mga farmers o yung mga mothers ng community on how to do the food processing. Now, syempre, it is only done in selected areas of the country na. Okay, so hindi kagaya ng internet na it's very widespread. Okay, so we are also producing IEC materials, and we do have manuals for processing that our stakeholders can have or can para makakuha ng information from IFST. Anyway, and what else? Also, okay, yearly, the university actually sponsors a training program. Okay, before we do this face-to-face, no? But now, what we did, gawin siyang webinar. Pero dahil limitation nga ng internet, pwede naman pong mag-request. Kagaya nung ginawa namin dun sa isang LGU, alam naman namin, hindi lahat may access sa internet. What they did was, the LGU, the Office of the Municipal Agriculturist, coordinated a activity for the municipality. So yung mga wala pong access sa internet, pwede pong umattend dun sa municipality kung saan nagko-conduct po kami ng seminar. Yun po. Those are some of the extension activities na pwedeng gawin para po sa mga farmers natin or ibang stakeholders who do not have access to internet. So their own local government unit can actually organize the extension activities for them.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. So dito po papasok yung industry collaboration or yung partnership cooperation between the academe and also our LGU or yung mga government organizations, lalo na po sa sitwasyon natin ngayon. Ma'am, thank you po for answering the questions. Babalikan po namin kayo, ma'am, mamaya sa ating final Q&A. Maraming salamat po. Okay po, so for our last presentation, our fourth speaker, Sir Apaga, will discuss the topic on Rice Competitive Enhancement Fund Mechanization Program, enhancing farmers' access to post-harvest loss, reducing technologies.
Good morning to all, especially to those participating in this webinar. My appreciation to PHTRC, especially to my good friend, Dr. Dormi, for inviting PhilMec, especially yours truly, to share our programs in reducing food waste in grains. As we all know, PhilMec, or the Philippine Center for Post-Harvest Development and Mechanization, is the national agency mandated to spearhead the development of technologies to improve our post-harvest systems in agricultural crops. And with the passage of the rice tariffication law last year, PhilMec was mandated to implement the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund Mechanization Program, component of the law, which is aimed at distributing production and post-harvest facilities to our farmers to improve their productivity and competitiveness. Thus, my report in this webinar will focus on RCEP entitled Enhancing Farmers' Access to Post-Harvest Loss Reducing Technologies, Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund Mechanization Program. In this presentation, I will provide you an overview of the program concept, some important implementing guidelines, and updates. The Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, or the Rice Fund, is one of the provisions of Republic Act 11-203, otherwise known as the Rice Tariffication Law, which was approved on February 14, 2019. The law liberalizes the importation, exportation, and trading of rice to ensure food security and at the same time ensure viability, efficiency, global competitiveness of the rice industry. Thus, to enhance efficiency and competitiveness of the rice industry, the law created the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, or the RCEP, or the Rice Fund, with an annual appropriation of 10 billion for the next 6 years, that which will be sourced out. This amount will be allocated for the following programs: 50% or 5 billion for farm machineries and equipment, 30% or 3 billion for inbred seed propagation and promotion, 10% or 1 billion for credit, 10% or 1 billion for extension services. The law further mandates that the rice farm machinery and equipment component be implemented by PhilMec, and that the production and post-production equipment be distributed to eligible farmers groups and LGUs as grants. Also, the law stipulates that PhilMec be allocated 100 million for the direct extension support to the distribution of machineries. So what is the mechanization program of RCEP? To provide us a basis for the mechanization program of RCEP, let us have an overview of the state of global competitiveness of the rice industry. The cost of producing rough rice $8.86 and 6.53 pesos per kilogram for the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. The higher cost of production is basically due to the high cost of labor, which is 4.53 pesos per kilogram, or 36 of the total cost of producing 1 kilogram of rice. Also, the yield per hectare of the Philippines is relatively low than Thailand and Vietnam. In terms of labor use by operation, the Philippines has the second highest labor use next to Indonesia. The labor use in the country is about 69 man-days per hectare. Almost all the activities in rice production in the country register significantly higher labor use, especially on crop establishment, crop care and maintenance, and post-production operation. This implies low use of machineries and facilities. In terms of post-harvest losses, PhilMec reported a high 16.47% average loss from harvesting to storage, with drying as the most critical, followed by milling. Drying and milling losses account for 70% of the national average loss, while harvesting to threshing account for 25%. The high loss can be accounted to the use of inefficient drying and milling facilities and the low utilization of efficient harvesting and drying facilities in favor of manual methods. Thus, the RCEP mechanization program envisions to address these inefficiencies. The program goal of the program is to raise rice farmers' productivity, profitability, and global competitiveness through strengthened access and use of appropriate production and post-production mechanization technologies. The program objectives are as follows. First, to make accessible to rice farmers the appropriate rice production and post-harvest machineries and equipment through their farmers cooperatives, associations. Second, to promote among Filipino rice farmers the use of efficient and cost-reducing rice mechanization intervention. And third, to strengthen local agricultural machinery manufacturing industry through the aggressive technology development, fabrication, and manufacturing. And the program outcome is the reduction of production cost of farmer users by 2 to 3 pesos per kilogram using precise and effective mechanized production technologies, and the reduction of post-production losses of farmer users by 3 to 5% using appropriate and efficient post-production technologies. The program envisions then the establishment of a farm machinery services provision system owned and managed by the FCAs providing the machinery services from land preparation to rice milling, supported by farm mechanization technician and information hub and reliable after-sales services. The expected output of the program is an empowered FCAs and rice farmers characterized by increased farm incomes, reduced costs, and decreased post-production losses. And the attainment of this expected output is anchored on the provision of appropriate farm machineries to the FCAs, coupled with the necessary capacitation and enabling system. Thus, the following development strategies are to be conducted. First is the need-based provision of farm machineries, technical education and promotion, the training on operation and management of machineries, the institutional and enterprise development and sustainability, and benchmarking, monitoring, and assessment. The program is focused on the major rice producing areas comprising of 16 regions, 57 provinces, and around 1,000 municipalities. It will be implemented in 6 years starting in 2019. The program funds will be sourced from the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund as stated in the Republic Act, wherein 5 billion pesos per year for the next 6 years, 100 million pesos per year for extension component for the next 6 years. Appropriate machineries for land preparation will be promoted. Studies show that appropriate land preparation machineries results to good field leveling that increases rice yield considerably. Mechanized plant stability up to 10% increase in yield. Mechanized harvesting and threshing results to reduction of harvesting cost by 3 to 5% and up to 3 to 5% in post-harvest losses. Appropriate mechanical drying save up to 5% post-harvest losses from spillages, over-drying, and broken kernels. And efficient rice milling save up to 3% milling losses due to higher milling recoveries. In terms of the implementation guidelines of the project, recipients should be rice-based FCA accredited with the Department of Agriculture or the LGUs. Priority, however, will be eligible FCAs. For the technical requirements for the FCAs to qualify as beneficiary, first they should have at least 50-hectare rice farms for regular members, must have a minimum rice area of 100 hectares within the peripheral barangays, must have the capacity to operate and maintain the machineries, must be willing to provide machinery shed as counterpart, and should be willing to operate the project according to the prescribed model, especially in following the suggested service fee, and operate and manage the project using an integrated system approach of farm machinery and equipment operation and management. The minimum requirements for the FCAs to submit. First is a letter of intent and resolution from the farmer organization stating the need for farm machineries, what machineries they need, and the post-harvest facilities and their willingness to provide their counterparts such as the shed for the project. The certificate of accreditation from the DA, Farmer Association and Cooperative profile, especially the list of members, and the machineries present and other information related to the co-op. Okay, so up to some updates on the implementation. The PhilMec has coordinated with partner agencies in the identification, evaluation, and field validation of about 1,140 FCA beneficiaries. They have already shortlisted 624 FCAs as beneficiaries of the first track of the 2019 targets amounting to 2 billion pesos of machineries, and completed the procurement of machineries and started distribution. A total of 2,938 machineries were requested and procured, of which 1,177 machineries have already been distributed as of September 23, 2020 to 476 FCAs. We have already developed, packaged, and distributed different IEC materials such as flyers, primers, farmer guidebooks, training manuals, as well as conducted school on the air and packaged on mechanization specialists who will eventually serve as resource persons in trainings as well as technicians. We have also conducted training for the machinery operators of the FCA recipients, as well as conducted training workshops on enterprise development to help them in managing their farm service centers. As to the benchmarking, monitoring, and assessment, we have already surveyed 359 FCAs. So, in the conduct of this program, we have met several concerns as an effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, such as the following. During the ECQ and field validation activities, our movement were limited. The importation of machineries by the local suppliers were affected by the lockdown of countries of origin, and the COVID-19 limits movement in the provinces, especially the conduct of information dissemination, training, profiling, benchmarking, and distribution. So this all, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Director Apaga, for sharing several information po about the RCEF Mechanization Program. So hindi lang po perishables tulad ng prutas at gulay ang nakaka-experience ng food loss and waste. Siyempre, maging ang mga cereal or grain crops, particular na ang ating staple crop na rice. Marami tayong natutunan, nalaman tungkol sa mga bagong programa at implementing guidelines para sa palay. Sir, good morning po. Sir, meron po tayo ditong question.
Good morning.
From our...
Morning po sa lahat, lalo-lalo na sa ating mga...
Okay po. Sir, meron po tayong question. Ang una po nating question ay, what are the equipment and facilities farmers can avail from the program? And is there a limit in the number of equipment and facilities they can get? Ulitin ko po, sir. What are the equipment and facilities farmers can avail from the program? Is there a limit in the number of equipment and facilities they can get?
Yeah, yung pong ating mga makinarya ay pwede silang mag-request starting from yung land preparation equipment hanggang sa rice milling. So mula sa traktora, hand tractor, mga seeders, transplanters, harvesters, dryers, and mga rice mills. So yung kanilang mga hinihingi, syempre titingnan natin kung ito ay angkop sa kanila at may kakayahan silang i-maintain or i-operate. So sa ngayon naman, hindi naman natin sila binibigyan ng limit kung anong kanilang hingin, Pero siyempre, dadaan yan sa evaluation, saka sa pag-prioritize, dahil meron po tayong allocation na nilalagay sa bawat munisipyo. So, ito lahat ang kino-consider ng aming mga teams, mga field teams sa pag-prioritize at pag-approve ng kanilang mga requests.
Alright, sir. Thank you po. Sir, mayroon pa po tayong question from our Zoom attendees po. Mr. John Christian Arrogante. Sir, the question is it possible to distribute the machinery's 1-to-1 ratio of different machines? Do they need to form cooperative in order to request to your office to avail machineries and facilities? Ulitin ko po, sir, is it possible?
Ito kasing mga makina natin will... Okay na?
Okay na po, sir. Apa.
Okay, ito kasing mga makina natin can only be operated effectively kung meron tayong tinatawag na economy of scale. Kaya mahirap na bigyan natin ang bawat farmer ng ganitong mga makinarya. And we recommend na ito ay maibigay sa mga kooperatiba or organization ng ating mga magsasaka. Kaya ang mga priorities natin dito o ang mga binibigyan natin ay yung mga farm cooperatives or association na merong certain level of organizational and technical as well as management maturity. So ito naman ay 6 na taon na programa. So siyempre ang mga binibigyan natin ngayon o pinaprioritize natin ngayon ay yung mga dati ng mga kooperatiba na meron ng kakayahan na i-operate or i-manage ang mga ito. So ang aming mga sinasuggest ay yung mga wala pang kooperatiba ay pwede silang mag-organize ngayon and hopefully within that 6-year period ng programa ay maging eligible recipient din sila ng mga makinarya.
Okay, sir. So meron pong follow-up question, sir, from Mr. John Christian Arrogante. Gaano po daw, sir, dapat sila karami yung ating mga farmers po?
Ano yung tanong, RJ?
May follow-up question po siya, sir. Gaano daw po dapat karami yung ating mga farmers po?
Yung aming mga criteria ay unang-una, yung kooperatiba, dapat meron siyang member na at least 50 na members. Ito yung mga regular na members niya, active. At meron din sana silang service area, potential service area na 100 hectares. So, para maging efficient yung gamit ng ating mga makinarya.
Okay, so ayun po, nabigyan po tayo ng idea na may mga options po ang ating mga rice farmers patungkol po dito sa RCF Mechanization Program. Sir Arnel, maraming salamat po, sir, sa pagsasagot po ng questions. Ngayon po ay dadako na po tayo sa ating... Apo. Dadako na po tayo ngayon sa ating final Q&A kung saan we will entertain 2 to 3 more questions from our participants. Thank you po, Dr. Mapera and Mr. Apaga, for that meaningful Q&A session. Overflowing po ang ating mga questions. Maraming salamat po sa inyong questions, no? So mag-entertain po kami ng 2 hanggang 3 pang questions, and we are inviting all of our 4 research speakers to please turn on your microphones and also po your video cameras. All right. So anyone po from our speaker can answer po this question. Babasahin ko na po yung ating first question for this final Q&A. From anonymous participant po sa ating Facebook po. Anong concrete steps ang ginagawa po ng bansa po natin para ma-attain ang food loss and waste reduction, or kung meron na daw po bang concrete steps? Ulitin ko po yung question, anong concrete steps po ang tininik na ng bansang Pilipinas para ma-attain ang food loss and waste reduction, or kung meron na po bang specific steps po talaga dito sa ating bansa?
Okay. Can I, John Rel, can I answer?
Okay po, Ma'am Serrano. Okay po. Yes po.
So through the years naman, ang capacity at saka capability building ay ginagawa namin for fresh fruits and vegetables. Ang PhilMec for grains, for example, ang other, for example, sa cassava ay sa VSU. So, hindi naman kami nagkulang sa pagbibigay ng training about how to reduce losses through some of the technologies that we have developed. So that is on our part as a unit of the our agricultural sector or subsector of our country. So yon ang very concrete steps na ginagawa namin since the inception of our unit.
Okay, ma'am.
Dagdag ko lang dyan.
Yes, ma'am Ella po.
Dagdag ko lang dyan, Rel. Sa parte ng gobyerno, kasi nga university, gobyerno din tayo, yung mga ginagawa nating capability building, yung mga development ng technologies, yan ay mga galing pinopondohan niya sa R&D ng DA, ng DOST, no? So yung mga technologies that were developed or are being adapted now, galing yan doon sa mga suporta, no, in terms of research, research, development, and extension programs ng Department of Agriculture na ini-implement at programa din naman ng university na ini-implement natin. So yun yung mga concrete steps, no? Ganon din yung mga suporta na nanggagaling sa labas ng bansa, sa mga international funding agencies katulad ng FAO, yung mga project, yung kanilang programa na nagpo-provide ng mga services or facilities like yung use ng plastic crates, sorting tables, mga ganyan. So yun ang mga nagagawa na in collaboration with the university or sa PHTRC. So meron namang mga concrete steps na ginagawa, at kung mababasa ninyo yung mga sinasabi ng Department of Agriculture in terms of investment in infrastructures, mga ganyan, yun ay mga steps, no, para talaga ma-reduce ang food loss and waste, no, yung mga investments in farm to market roads, facilities, mga ganyan.
Alright, ma'am. Thank you po. Actually po, may related question din po na nasagot na rin po from your answers both po ni Ma'am Serrano. Ang tanong na po kasi ma'am ay kung paano din po ma'am yung partnership or cooperation between the academe and our government po or the funding agencies. Alright po. So our next question po from our Zoom participant, Ms. Caritha Denise Chua po. What are the existing technologies that help reduce food waste at post-harvest level? So ulitin ko po, what are the existing technologies that help reduce food waste at post-harvest level?
Janrel, okay.
Okay.
Base doon sa aking presentation, nandoon na yung mga technologies, mga processes or handling steps na pwedeng gawin in order to reduce losses. So it's parang na-develop na yan para kung gagamitin mo yan, gagawin mo yan, ay talagang marireduce ang losses based on our study. So kaya inilahad namin yan para you can be followed and applied, no, by anyone or by the stakeholder. Kung alin dyan sa step na yan ang concern ka, for example, kung nasa transport sector ka or logistics, then you can make use of the things that we have developed, such as yung protocol for using a refrigerated van and in order to reduce losses, yung refrigeration management system, no? So yung mga yan, kahit na mga practices yan na maliliit, they are to be used in order to reduce losses. So i-apply na lang yan.
Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Serrano. So nasa presentation naman po kanina ni Ma'am, no, yung ating mga iba't ibang post-harvest technologies or post-harvest treatments na pwedeng i-adapt po ng ating mga stakeholders sa food industry, be it the farmer, the traders, o yung iba pa pong sector. Bilang panghuli pong katanungan, so maaari pong kung sino man po ang makasagot sa ating mga speakers, no? I think ito po yung pwede natin concluding question. The question po is from our YouTube viewer in the name of Don David Julian. The question po ay, COVID or no COVID, why is it important po that we increase awareness on food loss? And para po sa ating mga speakers in question, COVID or no COVID, why is it important that we increase awareness in food loss and waste reduction?
Dr. Esguerra, nasa anong yan na?
Kaya ako na. Kahit wala pa namang COVID, parang nasa yung mga pinaggagawa namin is towards reducing losses. Now that food waste is also an increasing concern, no, dinadagdag na namin yung kaya food loss and food waste. Yung mga sinasabi kong nabanggit na rin, one is kung 1/3 ng food na napoproduce natin ay nawawala, that means kukunti ang maibibigay mong pagkain kasi food security ang una mong dapat sagutin, no? Increasing population, padami na ng padami ang mga tao, tapos mababawasan pa yung food that should feed this increasing population. So one is food security, second yung sinasabi nga na itong food, lalo yung food waste na tinatapon, and then in producing the food, energy is being consumed. So it is a waste of the energy, no, na ginamit mo pag-produce ng food, pero i-waste mo lang pala yung 1/3 na yon. So it is a loss of energy, the resources, yung water, yung land that is becoming scarcer and scarcer because of increasing population, increasing urbanization. And then yun nga, if you have food that is lost, no, you also lose the nutrients contained in that food that is lost. So nutritional losses. And malnutrition is an ever-increasing concern. So if you save the food, no, so that means you save the nutrients na naandoon sa food, no, that will answer nutrition. And then yun nga yung tina-target natin na we reduce hunger. Ang target nga ay zero hunger. So if we save that 1/3 or kahit kalahati na lang ay ma-reduce mo yung target nga ng SDG 12.3, then that will mean a lot in terms of reducing hunger. So yun yung mga main reasons, no, why is there a need for reducing food loss and waste kay merong COVID, kay walang COVID, no. Yung mga ginagawa ng gobyerno, ginagawa ng university, no, ng bawat isang yung mga stakeholders din, they are our partners. Even before COVID, meron ng mga ganung mga adoption ng technologies to reduce losses, no. So yun ang major na reasons, no, yung security, food security. Okay? May idadagdag pa yung iba ba? Baka may idadagdag.
Okay, ma'am. So maraming po. Baka po meron pa pong sagutan from our other resource speakers po. Sir Arnel. Meron po tayo idadagdag. Alright. So I think po, that's all for our final Q&A session. We still have a lot of questions actually po, no? But rest assured, yung po mga questions ninyo ay recorded po yan. And we will send that to our resource speakers para po masagot ang inyong mga questions. Maraming salamat po for the productive resource presentation and also yung Q&A. And para bigyan pong pasasalamat itong ating mga resource speakers, bibigyan po natin sila ng certificates. So allow me to read the citation of the certificate. College of Agriculture and Food Science, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, presents this certificate of appreciation to, name of the resource speaker, for sharing his or her valuable insights as a resource speaker during food loss and waste reduction amidst COVID-19 pandemic. A webinar observance of the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, given this 29th day of September 2020 at PHTRC CAFS UP Los Baños, Laguna. Signed, Dr. Dormita Del Carmen, Director of PHTRC, and also Dean Elpidio M. Agbisit Jr. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Elda Bisguera, for sharing your expertise and sharing your time. And also po, maraming salamat po, Dr. Edrelina P. Serrano. Ma'am, maraming salamat. Of course, Dr. Lotis Imopera. Ma'am Lotis, maraming salamat po for sharing your time and expertise. And last but not the least, to the Director Arnel Ramir Apaga. Sir, thank you po for your valuable time and valuable insights. So that ends our resource presentation from the resource speakers and our Q&A. And for the recapitulation and closing, allow me po to read this. So we have learned so many ways on how to achieve SDG 12.3, which is to reduce food loss and waste. Natuto tayo kung paano nga ba nagkakaroon ng kabawasan sa pagkain or saang stage ng supply chain, ano-ano yung mga pamamaraan upang umunti ang kabawasan sa pagkain sa pamamagitan ng iba't ibang post-harvest technologies ng fruits, vegetables, even rice, and also yung ating food processing. At ang pinakamahalaga na naiparating sa atin, ang kahalagahan ng food loss and waste reduction, which is a shared responsibility. Each one of us, ikaw, na nanonood ng webinar na to, or tayong lahat, we have a role in reducing food loss and waste. Kasama ang mga bagong kaalaman na ating natuklasan ngayong umaga, naway baunin natin ang hamon na ito para sa bawat isa sa atin bilang parte ng selebrasyon ng International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. Sabi nga nila, ang bawat simpleng kontribusyon mula sa isa't isa ay maaaring magdulot ng malaking pagbabago. Hindi lang para sa atin, kundi para rin sa ating kapwa at para sa ating bayan. Thank you everyone for our participants. Thank you for attending our webinar. Don't forget to fill out the evaluation form for you to receive an e-certificate. Yung link po ay makikita nyo na ngayon sa inyong mga screen and ipopost din po yan sa ating comment sections and chat box sa ating media platform. So after this webinar, lahat po ng ating participants ay maaaring sumagot sa ating evaluation upang kayo ay makatanggap ng e-certificates. I-type lamang sa inyong mga browsers ang bit.ly/FLWDayEvaluation. Put emphasis po doon sa ating letters, sa capitalized letters, the F, L, W, and yung D, tsaka yung letter E sa evaluation. So ayan, pwede nyo na pong i-fill out ang ating evaluation to receive your e-certificate. And bago po tayo maghiwa-hiwalay, no? we would like to request all our Zoom participants to turn on your video cameras. So turn on po ng ating mga video cameras dito sa Zoom participants for our photo op session. So while staying muted for the photo session. Pwede po bang makita natin yung mga mukha po ng ating mga participants? Ayan. Para po ito sa ating photo session. Yan, may mga nag-open na po ng video camera. Tignan po natin ang kanilang mga mukha. Okay, so pwede po tayong kumaway kasi nakikita po ito sa Facebook, nakikita rin po ito sa YouTube. At para naman po sa ating mga Facebook and YouTube attendees, no, pwede din po kayong mag-selfie. Picturean nyo lang po yung sarili ninyo habang nanonood po nitong webinar, and you can use the official hashtag FLWDay. So pwede nyo po yung i-post sa inyong mga Facebook profiles. So I think we're ready for the picture. Ayan, naka-open na po yung mga camera. Nakita ko na po. Hello po sa inyo dyan. Posible po na magkaroon po tayo ng iba't ibang mga frames, no? So all throughout po siguro, ngiti lang po tayo. Kung nakamasman po tayo, makikita po natin sa mata yung pagngiti po natin. Okay, at a count of 3 po. 1, 2, 3. Smile po. Okay, next frame. Ngiti lang po tayo kasi hindi po natin sigurado kung nasaan frame po tayo. Okay, next frame po. The count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright, next frame. The count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Fourth frame po, fourth frame. Isa pa po. At the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Pwede rin po magwaki, ganyan. And for our last frame, last count na po. Waki, pwede pong magwaki. Yan. 1, 2, 3, smile. Alright, maraming salamat po sa pag-attend po ng webinar natin ngayong umaga. For more updates about Postharvest po, you can follow and like the Facebook page of PHTRC. Again, thank you all for attending this webinar. We would also like to thank all the staff who make this webinar possible. So shout out po sa ating mga staff po ng PHTRC, lalo na po ang under sa FAO. And of course, thank you din po sa ating funding agency na Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. This has been an informative webinar, which is also a call to action. Stop food loss and waste for the people, for the planet. This is John Del Zuniega. Until next time, stay safe everyone. Maraming salamat po.